So, welcome once more to our revision classes. So, we continue today with question number 21. Now, remember that we started our revision with Fano Regional Mock paper 1, and we've looked at the questions 1 right down to question 20. So, today we continue with question 21. Now, question 21 reads thus. It says, Lauren Hansberry was the first African American and the first woman to win A, the Drama Desk Award, B, a Tony Award, C, the Drama Circle's Critics Award, and D, a Grammy. Now the right answer there is C. She won the Drama Circle's Critics Award in 1959. Shortly after the play was performed in New York Broadway, she won that prize. So take note of that. And I would also like to remind you that you take note of the plays this woman has written. Now, we have stated this 1,000,001 times, and we're going to keep reiterating that author's biography is a key aspect of paper 1 advanced level literature. You just can't look away. Ensure that you read all the authors. Try to take note of those specific aspects of their biography because they somehow find expression in paper 1. Take note of their major works, and then you might also want to look at when they were born and when they died. For those who are dead, look at when they died and when they were born. Look at some major awards which they won and the year in which they won them. I remember we made reference to Wole Soyinka won the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1986. Of course, that was an honor to the whole African continent, the African continent as a whole. So it is something that is likely always going to be in paper 1 because it's a mark of honor for the continent as a whole. So I would like that you take note of a author's biography of all 10 authors under study, their biography. Look at some of the main highlights. You might also want to look at William Shakespeare because it is traditional that you always find something from his biography, presented coming up in paper 1. So let's go to question 22. 22 read thus. How many people live in the younger apartment? Now, talking about Lauren Vivian Hansberry, A Raisin in the Sun. It's a pity that for time constraints I haven't done anything substantial in A Raisin in the Sun. But then I am going to see if I can do some videos on that, A Raisin in the Sun. Now, so let us look at A Raisin in the Sun. They are asking us how many people live in the younger apartment. Now, our boat is quite full, but we can manage. Now, take note that the younger family lives in Southside Chicago. Let's just give a brief recap. The younger family live in Southside Chicago, and the matriarch of the family is Mama Lena. Now, this woman is a widow, given that her husband, Big Samuel, is dead. And so it does happen that she has 2 children. The older of the 2 is Walter Lee, and then the younger of the 2 children is Benita, a 20-year-old young woman who aspires to become a medical doctor. And then now Walter is married to Ruth, and they have a son, the 11-year-old Travis, who sleeps in the couch in the cramped up sitting room. So how many members constitute this family? Let's count again. We have the matriarch of the family, Mama Lena. We have the older of the 2 children, that's Walter Lee, who is married to Benita, to Ruth. And we have the younger of the 2 children, that's Benita, who is 20-year-old. And then we have Walter Lee's wife, Ruth, and the son, Travis. That makes it 5 of them. So there are 5 youngers who live in this apartment, and they share this building with the Johnson's family. So the right answer there is A, 5. Now we go down to Bole Butake and palm wine will flow. This one should be much more familiar since we've done quite a lot of videos on that. So 23 read thus. The text and palm wine will flow can best be considered as a dash text. A says comic, B satirical, C tragic, and D awareness. A says comic, B says satirical, C says tragic, and D says awareness. Now the right answer to that is B, satirical. Why satirical? Now always bear in mind that Bole Butake's rationale behind and palm wine will flow is a scathing attack on autocracy, oppressive leadership, leaders who rule their people with heavy handedness, brutality, torture, repression is the order of the day. So Bole Butake sets out to use this fictional village of Iwawa as a microcosm to represent authoritarian kingdoms or countries that are ruled by heavy-handed dictators. Now, one of them, of course, is a faun. So the right answer there is satirical, because it is purely political satire where he castigates the faun heavy-handedness as an oppressive leader. So the right answer there is B. Then we go to 24. 24 says the setting of and palm wine will flow is where is the play and palm wine will flow set. Now the first one says Iwawa with an H. B says Iwawa village without an H. C says Iwawa village with WW, and then D says Iwawa WW and an R. So the right answer there is B. For those who have not mastered the spelling of these names and settings, this question reminds us that we might just find ourselves in hot waters. So you might want to take note of those very important names in a text. Any of the texts under study, try to master the names, the settings. Don't just master them, know how to spell them correctly, because if there's one thing we draw from these questions, that the examiner might challenge us on those names that they feel we just have not mastered their spelling, so they might just decide to challenge us on that. So I also want to appeal to a sense of a reason that we pay close attention to things like that. Okay, 25 says the tapper and sangom are severely beaten by the faun's watchdogs. This is an example of, now the faun, of course, is an oppressive leader who rules his people with a heavy hand, and we observe that sangom is a very close friend of Shea's, and the tapper is the one who provides Shea with palm wine for his divinations and incantations. And so the faun had the both of them well beaten by his watchdogs, of course, his chindas. They had them well beaten. So that, of course, generates a lot of pathos, because it sheds light on his oppressive nature, using fear and torture as a modus operandi to keep the people at bay. So the right answer there is B, is A, which is pathos. 26. The statement the cat, no matter how full his stomach is, will never spare the rat, implies A, the cat and rat are sworn enemies. B, cats eat rats even when stomachs are full, of course no. C says no matter how full a greedy man is, he still asks for more. D says rats run from cats. The right answer there is C. Now, what we are faced with, they say the statement, the cat, no matter how full his stomach is, of course, it's a proverb. And we do know that when we talk about proverbs and idiomatic expressions, it is not much so the physical symbols that are used, of physical images that we see in proverbs or idiomatic sayings. No, it has to do more with the deeper meanings that these proverbs or these images are about. In this case, we are trying to talk about people who are very, very greedy, and no matter how much they tend to pull up for themselves, they still look out to grab as much as possible. So it is a proverb there that indicates how greedy man can be. So the right answer, of course, is C. So we go to George Orwell, 1984. Now, before we go to George Orwell, one thing that we have to note is that George Orwell, the name George Orwell is a pen name. Like I earlier said, a pen name is a name that an author uses for artistic purposes. He might pick up a pen name for different reasons. The first of them being that he may want to hide his identity, maybe for political persecution or for some social reasons. Now we can look back to one of the texts that we did last year. That is Silas Manner, that is written by Silas Manner is written by Mary Ann. It's written by Mary Ann. But observe that she has not used the name Mary Ann. Why? Because she decides to pick up an artistic name. That name she picks up now becomes a pen name. So pen names are those names that we use when we tend to keep out our true identity for one reason or the other. Now, Mary Ann knew that if she had written with her the name given to her at birth, her baptismal name, of course, which is Mary Ann, people at the time will not read her works, given that she's a woman. Oh yes, they won't read her works, given that she's a woman. So she has to pick up a man's name just so that her work will be identified and read, of course. Now we go to the next. So the right answer there is 27. How old is Julia? Now, Julia is 26. For those who have read 1984, Julia, the young woman there, is 26. Now, 28. 28 says, what piece of evidence of the party's dishonesty does Winston remember having coming across several years earlier? Oh yes, Winston. Remember that Winston is the main character of the novel and it traces his adventures. Now, a diary containing O'Brien's secret confession, no? A videotape from a telescreen, no? A tape recorder conversation of Emma, no? A photograph proving that certain individuals were out of the country when they were allegedly committing a crime. Of course, right answer there is D. It is a photograph that he stumbled upon. He stumbled upon that photograph, and so that photograph was what actually reminded him of the crimes that these people commit in the party, of course, which is dishonesty. So the party's dishonesty revealed through that photograph. Okay, now 29. What organization urges children to turn their parents over to the authorities? The party youth, the junior spies, the outer party, the committee of Oceanian patriotism. Now, it says what organization urges children to turn their parents over to the authorities? The party youth, the junior spies, the outer party, the committee of Oceanian patriotism. Now, the right answer there is C. Okay, let us carry on with question number 30. The psychological principle that allows an individual to believe contradictory ideas at the same time is called, of course, we know that one. That one is double think. That one is double think. So right answer there is C. That one is so clear. Children shall be Anthills of the Savannah. When the novel begins, which word best describes the feelings of the cabinet members towards His Excellency? Now, take note that Anthills of the Savannah is another text that questions on that indicts oppressive regimes across sub-Saharan Africa. Now we come across this fictional republic of Kagan with the capital at Bassa, and its sitting president is a military man. Now His Excellency Sam, he's a high-ranking military officer who has taken over power. Now we observe that when the previous civilian regime was overthrown, he was invited as a young military officer to take over the reins of power. They haven't tasted of power. He has now come of age, and of course power have corrupted him absolutely, and so he would not look twice at anything that stands on his way. He will crush it. So when the novel opens up, we encounter Sam in his first cabinet meeting. Of course, the environment is very tense because he looks at his commissioners in their eyes, and nobody dare go against any word that comes out of his mouth. Now, a case in point was Professor Ocon, Professor Reginald Ocon. Now, Reverend Professor Reginald Ocon happens to be the Commissioner of Education, and he's in a fit of panic, having grabbed all his papers, thinking that the meeting was over, just to realize that he dare not walk out of the hall when His Excellency is sitting there. And so you see a grown man fidgeting with papers like a 5-year-old, generating so much humor. But then we can't take our eyes off from the tension that has shrouded this room and this cabinet meeting, that his ministers can barely even cough. None of them can even put a word in that will not pat His Excellency in the back. Now the question says that when the novel begins, which word best describes the feelings of the cabinet members towards His Excellency? Impressed, saddened, frightened, and proud. Of course, the right answer there is C, frightened. They are scared. They are scared, really, really scared. They are so frightened. 32. Which word best describes His Excellency behavior? Measured, volatile, rational, and consistent. The right answer there is B. He is very volatile. At 1 minute he smiles, the next minute he holds everyone with so much content and so much how will I put it, with so much pressure. He pressures them. You can hardly even know what his mood is. So you observe that your day as a commissioner depends on how His Excellency woke up. At one moment he smiles, the next moment he's so still, and nobody looks at him in the eyes, because looking at him in the eyes is an affront to his personality and his authority, something he will not take. Chris Orico says that while he was at the table. Now remember that the opening scene, this same opening scene is what candidates were presented with last year paper 3, Proust Appreciation. The very first 2 pages of the first chapter of Anthills of the Savannah was there for them. As students made a mess out of it. So let's get into it. So his attitude there is very volatile. Volatile means that he's subject to mood swings. Let me phrase it like that. You can't really predict what he will do next. This moment he's all smiling, the next moment he's stern and angry, looking for someone's head to chop off. So with such mood swings, the best adjective to describe his character there is volatile. Okay, 33. What is Christopher Orico's professional role at the beginning of the novel? Now remember that when the novel begins, it is through Chris's eye lens or through Chris's point of view that the narrative is revealed. So when the novel opens up, we learned that Chris is the commissioner for information. He was first the board chair or the director of the National Gazette, the National Daily of the Republic of Kagan. But then he has of course been promoted to the commissioner for information, passing behind that position to Ikem Osodi, his close friend. So the right answer there is C, Commissioner of Information. 34. How long does His Excellency's advisor say he has been elected to serve for? Of course, life. All dictators see themselves as presidents for life. In fact, natural candidates. Let me go by the words of our very own here. He sees himself, his commissioners pat him in the back. They pat his ego, make him feel that of course he deserves to be the president for life, which of course is what he wants. Now go to Alobed APS, the lady with a beard. 35 says, what made the grandmother? Now before I read this, while I was looking at this question, I discovered that there's quite a huge error in the paper from questions 35 right down to 38. The questions there are coming from some other texts. They are not from the lady with a beard. So that was an error that candidates who wrote this particular mock should have identified. I guess it must be a typing error coming from the secretariat that multiplied or copies of it. So if that be the case, then we then go right down to question 39, which of course is Geoffrey Chaucer's The Canterbury Tales. So 39 reads us, which collection of stories is A Merchant's Tale a part of? The Merchant's Tale, The Canterbury Tales, The Franklin's Tale, The Prowler's Tale. The right answer there is B, The Canterbury Tales, because The Canterbury Tales is a whole portfolio. It's a portfolio that puts together a large amount of stories drawn across Europe from Spain right down to England to Italy. Now these stories were collected by Geoffrey Chaucer, and given his genius, we will observe that the 29 pilgrims that are en route to Canterbury have decided that they will engage in a storytelling session, which means that it challenges the rationale behind that pilgrimage, because we know that a pilgrimage is a holy journey that individuals undertake in order to rebuild or regenerate or to strengthen their spiritual life. And so Christians usually carry out this holy journey at normally in the season of spring or May, a period that is inspired by rebirth at the level of nature. And so pilgrims from all parts of England will long to re-energize their spiritual life, to extend that rebirth to their spiritual life. And so the holy journey must be taken. But then there are 29 of them, and they decide to engage in a storytelling session, which of course was introduced by Bailey. Bailey is, take note, Bailey is the owner of Tabat Inn, one of the best resource centers of Southwark, London, where our 29 pilgrims congregate. They ate sumptuous food, drank sumptuous wine, slept in spacious rooms, and early in the morning they embark on this journey. And Bailey imposes himself on them as a leader, as a tour guide, and given his business-minded nature, he initiates a storytelling session, and everyone just accepts it. And he says that whoever tells the best story will be entitled to a free meal paid for by everyone in the company, and everybody accepts. Everybody accepts. And so Chaucer decides that 2 stories will be told on their way to Canterbury. That's to Thomas Abeke's shrine, the slain martyr of the Canterbury Church. Of course, Chaucer calls him the blissful martyr. And then 2 stories on their way back. So that is the arrangement they've had. So Chaucer decides that he's going to tell quite a lot of stories, but then he died not completing these tales. So all these tales were written in what was titled the Canterbury Tales? So the answer, of course, for that question there is B. Now we go to question 40. How old is the character of January? Now, January is the main character of The Merchant's Tale. January is 60. He's a 60 years old retired knight who decides to settle down by getting married to the younger May. This woman is only, young man is only 20. It's only, well, she's not even 20. We are told that she's not up to 20, which means she's close to 20. So she's all pretty, beautiful, fresh, young, energetic. Reasons why she goes with the name May. And May there is symbolic, it's a motif, because the month of May keeps coming up again and again, again and again. So January is 60. 41. One of January's brothers is called, now we know that January has two brothers. In some texts they call them brothers, in some they call them friends. We know of Justinus and Placebo. So when you go down there and they give Placebo, you take it. If they go with Justinus, you take it. But then Justinus and Placebo should be in our mind. So say one of January's brothers is called Justinus. What is the name of his other brother? Of course, Placebo, which is C. Then we go to 42. By the young man's dressing, Chaucer guesses that he is a, of course, a forester. Now the young man is a third pilgrim in the catalog. Now the first being the knight, the second his son in apprenticeship to become a knight, and the third is his man servant who goes by the name a young man. He believes in Saint Christopher and is always clad in green to show that he's a forester. He carries an axe with him. A very committed butler or a very committed man servant. So that's a young man. So of course the answer is A, the forester. Then 43. Now we go to Shoinka's Poems of Black Africa. The title of the poem Autopsy by Arthur Noje is a good example. Take note that Arthur Noje comes from South Africa, and one major theme that characterizes all our poems from South Africa is apartheid, giving the political upheaval that apartheid, that is the brutal, repressive policy of apartheid brought on that beautiful nation. So they are asking us that the title of the poem Autopsy by Arthur Noje is a good example of metaphor, metonymy, oxymoron, and synecdoche. Of course, the right answer there is metaphor. Autopsy. Autopsy. What is the meaning of the autopsy? Autopsy is a medical examination of a dead body. We call that an autopsy. The medical examination of a corpse to find out maybe the possible reasons for death. We call that autopsy. So for Arthur Noje to be able to use that, for him to be able to use that to reference his poem, tell us his ability to crack open the brutality of that system called apartheid. So he was performing an autopsy, not just on the system, but on an individual who passed to find out the cause of that person's death. So Autopsy is a poem that Arthur Noje exposes apartheid, the brutality of the regime on the black majority South Africans. So the right answer there is a metaphor. Now take note that in poetry, titles are often metaphoric in the sense that they always contain deeper meaning and they are always connected to the body of the poem. Now 44. Identify the category of characters that will be most consoled by the message of hope expressed in Rulers and Upheavals. Now, Rulers and Upheavals are two twin poems that are identical because they treat a similar theme. And that theme, of course, is political satire. So, Rulers and Upheavals is an indictment again on oppressive leadership, corrupt leadership, totalitarian leadership. And what makes them even beautiful is that they are written by our very own Belasone Dipoko, who hails from the Mongo. Unfortunately, he died in the last decade. So now they're asking us that identify the category of characters that will most likely be consoled by these poems. A says embezzlers sentenced to life imprisonment. There's not to console embezzlers. Next, the bodyguards of a tyrant. Autocratic rulers, political prisoners. The right answer there is political prisoners. Because when authoritarian regimes, when dictators pick up political opponents or dissidents and lock them up, as soon as these dictators go down, once they are taken out of power, such political prisoners always gain their freedom out of their jail cells. So the right group of people who will probably be consoled by the poem and its message are political prisoners. 45. The poem Olokun is written by Oja Ofemum, Belasine Dipoko, Amin Kasam, and John Pepper Clark. Of course, the right answer there is John Pepper Clark. He wrote Olokun, and John Pepper Clark is from Nigeria. Now, 46. In David Job's poem, Sell Out, we can deduce that a sellout is one who sells wrong products out, no, makes friends with whites, no, betrays a cause, D, rebels against racism. Now the right answer there is C. When you are a sellout, it means that you betrayed somebody or you betrayed a cause. Maybe people come together to do something for the common good of everyone, and then you go behind their back and you leak out that information. That makes you a sellout. Okay, we now go to 47. When did John Keats die? A says 11 May 1838, B says 12 March 1833, C says 23 February 1821, and D says 19 August 1825. Now, John Keats died on the 23rd of February 1821. You might want to take note of that when he died. If you go back to his biography, you find out. Like I always said, biographical information always finds its way in paper one. So to be forewarned is to be forearmed. You just ensure that you do all what it takes. Take note of when authors are born and when they die. You just might find that in there. Okay, 49. What was the profession of Thomas Hammond, under whom John Keats joined for apprenticeship? Again, that question comes from his biography. Now, Thomas Hammond was the one he lived with for some time, and that man was a medical surgeon. So the right answer there is B, because A says teacher, B says medical surgeon, C says banker, D says lawyer. So the right answer there is B, a medical surgeon. 50. John Keats is well known for his odes. An ode is, now we are looking at types of poems. Now remember, we have ballads, we have lyrics, we have epics, we have sonnets, we have odes, we have dirges. Now these are different kinds of poems that will be very important that you know them, their structure and their content. All of those help to, draw that line of it helps to differentiate the different genres, because they are all subgenres under poetry. So an ode is a form of lyric poetry expressing emotions and usually addressed to someone or something. The right answer there is D. So you see that an ode shares some common features with a lyric, but then the difference between an ode and lyric is that an ode is always a dedication to somebody. It might be a dead person, or maybe the person can still be alive. It can be an honor to somebody, something dedicated to somebody to show that honor, that sense of belonging. You call that an ode. So that is that for the 50 questions. I've just rushed through them because I want to do another video again on Geoffrey Chaucer. One of the students has asked quite a lot of questions on Geoffrey Chaucer, so I thought that we are going to review Geoffrey Chaucer in the general role of poetry, and then after that we can do some work on A Raisin in the Sun by Lauren Hansberry. So I hope to see you again in our next video. Let's just keep the revision going as we build up to the class. See you in the next class.